In February 1994, 3 people vanished from Memphis. Weeks later, investigators uncovered a scene so disturbing that it would become one of Tennessee's most infamous murder cases. Beneath a freshly prepared grave at Rose Hill Cemetery lay the bodies of 21-year-old Marcellos Anderson, his mother Delois Anderson, and 17-year-old Frederick Tucker. Prosecutors claimed the murders were part of a violent robbery and kidnapping orchestrated by Tony Carruthers and co-defendant James Montgomery. But decades later, questions still surround the trial. No physical evidence directly linked Carruthers to the killings. He represented himself in court, and supporters continued demanding DNA and fingerprint testing. According to court records, Marcellos Anderson was known in Memphis drug circles and reportedly carried large amounts of cash and jewelry. Prosecutors later argued that he became the target of a robbery plot. On February 24, 1994, Anderson, his mother Delois, and Frederick Tucker disappeared. Days later, investigators were led to Rose Hill Cemetery by Jonathan Montgomery, brother of James Montgomery, and an original co-defendant in the case. The discovery shocked investigators. The victims had been buried beneath another grave prepared for burial. Medical testimony later stated that at least some of the victims may still have been alive when they were buried. Authorities alleged that the victims had been abducted, driven to Mississippi, shot, and then returned to Memphis for burial in the cemetery grave. In 1996, prosecutors in Shelby County charged Tony Carruthers and James Montgomery with 3 counts of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and robbery. The prosecution built its case largely around witness testimony, statements from jailhouse informants, and circumstantial evidence. One inmate testified that Carruthers allegedly confessed details of the murders while both men were incarcerated. Prosecutors also introduced letters allegedly written by Carruthers discussing violent plans and references to what they described as a master plan. Another critical factor involved Carruthers' prior prison work detail. Prosecutors argued he knew about cemetery operations because he once worked on a prison cemetery crew. According to testimony, Carruthers allegedly remarked that burying someone beneath another grave would be a good way to hide a body. The state portrayed the murders as calculated, organized, and exceptionally cruel. The jury ultimately convicted both defendants. Tony Carruthers received 3 death sentences. One of the most controversial aspects of the case was not only the evidence presented, but also who argued the defense. Tony Carruthers represented himself during major portions of the trial. Court records show that multiple defense attorneys had previously withdrawn from representing him. Later reporting and appeals described long-standing concerns regarding Carruthers' mental health and competency. Supporters argue the court should never have allowed a man facing execution to stand alone before a jury in such a complicated capital murder case. Critics argue his courtroom behavior damaged his own defense and alienated jurors. Throughout the proceedings, Carruthers maintained his innocence. He repeatedly argued there was no DNA evidence tying him to the murders, no fingerprints directly linking him to the crime scene, no eyewitness testimony placing him at the killings, and too much reliance on informants and circumstantial evidence. The courtroom itself became highly unusual. Jurors were identified by numbers rather than names because of security concerns, creating what later appeals described as an anonymous jury. Carruthers strongly objected to that process. Meanwhile, co-defendant Jonathan Montgomery, who had initially implicated others in statements to police, died before trial after being found hanged inside his jail cell. Years later, supporters of Carruthers argued that alternate suspects were never fully investigated. For nearly 3 decades, Carruthers has continued to fight his conviction from death row. Appeal after appeal upheld both the verdicts and the death sentences. But renewed attention later focused on forensic evidence that supporters claim was never fully tested. Attorneys affiliated with the American Civil Liberties Union argued that physical evidence in the case, including possible DNA and fingerprint evidence, deserved modern forensic analysis. Their filings claim no physical evidence directly connected Carruthers to the murders. They also argued that certain fingerprints recovered during the investigation were never fully compared, and they maintained that DNA testing could potentially identify other individuals connected to the crime. Carruthers has consistently argued that forensic testing could prove his innocence. In April 2026, however, Tennessee appellate courts denied a petition seeking additional fingerprint analysis. The court ruled that the defense had not shown a reasonable probability that further testing would have changed the outcome of the original trial. The convictions and death sentences remained intact. The murders of Marcellos Anderson, Delois Anderson, and Frederick Tucker remain among Tennessee's most haunting criminal cases. For prosecutors, the case has always been clear: a brutal triple murder motivated by robbery and greed. For supporters of Tony Carruthers, the case represents something very different: a capital conviction built largely on circumstantial evidence, informant testimony, and a defendant who stood alone before the court. Even after decades of litigation, the same questions continue to linger. Could modern DNA testing change the understanding of the crime? Did the trial fully protect the constitutional rights of the accused? And can justice ever feel complete when doubt remains? In the shadows of the cemetery where the victims were buried, the debate continues. Tony Carruthers has consistently maintained his innocence. Courts have repeatedly upheld his convictions and sentence. Requests for additional forensic testing continue to be litigated. Was justice truly served? Or does the truth still lie buried beneath the grave? Tell us what you believe in the comments below. And for more untold crimes, courtroom mysteries, and cases that continue to divide opinion decades later, subscribe to Shadow Case Files, because some secrets never stay buried. They just get older. And even the most careful plan, a trace, a mistake. A truth that refuses to stay buried. And in the end, no matter how deep the past is hidden, some stories always rise back to the surface. Every case leaves a shadow. Every mystery deserves a voice. This is Shadow Case Files.